Yeah, do we do the boss? Do we do the T11 drugs? I kind of don't want to do it because I can use this to get a free map, but yeah. Falling ED, I can actually... I'll drop my ED to level 20. I got a bit lucky today and got level 21. But for the purpose of the showcase right now, let's just use a level 20 ED. So this is 4-link gaming. I'll flip the gems after. It's fine. I'll just do this one map. So yeah, here's the 4-link ED. This map is very bad to do the leak mechanic in, especially with drops, but let's go. So I'll probably be using quite a bit of self-cast Bane in this map, which is a random 3-link. Because I don't have it on a trigger yet, so I actually have to put it on a dangerous packs. And usually I have time anyways to spam it. You know, I'll just let the ED run through shit, and I can spam the contagion as it keeps spreading, right? And the Bane actually does like, I think it's like 60k Shaper DPS, something like that. Well, with their stacks up, so it's not quite that much in clear, but it adds some good amount. I think we'll do the drops as well. It's not that big of a deal. I still have the setup done on the canyon side for 3 maps. Yeah, my tooltip with the frenzy charges, arcane surge, and now infusion is 112k. No, I don't think. Wait, I don't actually know if I had frenzy charges there. Okay, so the tooltip with arcane surge and infusion is 100k exactly. With the level 21 gem, it was like, I think it was 112. So it's like 12% more damage. Yeah, it's relatively smooth. Sure, this map doesn't have any map mods. But yeah, this is also gonna be Awakener level 3 drop, so he has an extra 9% life compared to what he would have if I really wanted to make this as easy as possible. Oh gosh. Also, another thing that you should consider doing if you feel like earlier in the league, if you feel like your character is a bit on the weaker side, is instead of full clearing the map like I did, even though I cleared it really badly, as you can see, there's a lot of random drox mobs still alive somewhere in the sides, in these little rooms there, whatever, is just go straight to the boss. Then you get all of your wall skills. For example, what I did in the China race is, I think when I did my tier 15 Baron, I actually used my Ball Molten Shell 3 times during the entire fight by locking out when it was about to be expiring. It's very good, I guess, cheese that a lot of people... Also, I should totally use my Wall Blight here because I'm gonna get it back for the last phase. So now we are just gonna go get all of these down. We don't want to have them last phase. Okay, good. Do. My wall blight, sorry, my normal blight is, I believe, around 600k Shaper DPS. So with the with everything going, with the despair going, having ED and having 20 stacks of blight and with 15 wither stacks. Wait, sorry, that's with 10 wither stacks. I do like around 750, 800k Shaper DPS right now with 10 wither stacks, which is achievable with the amount of duration I have right now and cast speed. But eventually I will have good enough duration. Also, that's a very good belt. Also, and eventually I will have enough duration scaling that it's very easy to maintain even 15 stacks of wither through the spreading rot. Yeah, that was a T11 Drox with a 4-link blight, 3-link bane, and 4-link 4-link ED blight and a random 3-link bane. If I really wanted to optimize this, I could get another link to bane by swapping the bane into the 4-link on my boots instead of the contagion. But yep. Yo, what up? So, as you could see, running on a 4-link, even on red tier Conquerors, isn't exactly an issue for the build. But since then, I have now obtained the 5-link and and some other upgrades. But before I go further on that, got a few questions from previous videos I wanna talk about, and the first one is actually something that I just forgot to do on the first video, even though I mentioned it, and that's if the league mechanic is like really rippy and you don't want to do it, or doesn't absolutely shit out regals like the current league mechanic does, in getting the alt aug regal gear early on. So instead, then you can very easily delve and do some interesting delve stuff that isn't really, I don't see people really do it or talk about it much, and I didn't do it much on this character because, well, delve shit outs a lot of currency, including regals. So what I want to do is, a lot of people recommend in like pumping out your sulfite capacity to the max, like as soon as possible. I was actually using, I think it was 6,000 mark before the 9,000 for a long time, and instead I invested in having some 8 or something flares. You want to have a good radius of them, like at least 100, I think like 120 or something like that is good. And well, I haven't really gotten more dynamites, and you don't really need them. 3 is actually enough for a long time. But invest into flares, maximum flares, and their radius. And then to some degree, some darkness resist. As you can see, I actually am at really bad darkness resist, but it doesn't really matter because I can just toss some flares and they will reset the darkness stacks. But yeah, so back to the how to open regals. So Delve has a lot of the forgotten wealth chests, etc., and those drop generally a lot of currency. So you want to get the flares going so you can do all of the fractured ball, and every single a pathway that doesn't have a node, or like every single square in Delve that doesn't have a node has a fractured wall. So for example, when I went from this node to this node, here was 2 fractured walls in this pathway here. I'll actually do like a very very quick showcase what I mean by the squares here. So it's like a grid. So we could, oh god, that's very big. It's whatever. We could like draw like these verticals and horizontal lines like this, and you can actually see that the black dark like lines here. But the lines, although the squares also exist within like here. So, for example, this right here is one square. This is a square. This right there is a square. Here we had two squares, right? So we have this as a square, and then these two are the ones with the fractured walls. So why this is important to know is because you can go and do random fractured walls without actually going with the pathway. So I could go here, and then from here run into the darkness using flares and destroy the walls. And some people do it, so as you're going down, you also do the random side zones that you don't actually spend sulfite on. And in the case where you don't even you can skip destroy the fracture wall, and then the random, there's like, actually we just go get we can go there, it's fine. Go there and showcase this quick. So we don't, this is a three-way, right? This is a, we have gone from there, we gone there, so there's one pathway that is going to be dark. So if you look at the minimap, I like to play on a pretty zoomed out minimap, like zoomed in minimap. So here we have, so we're not actually getting any experience doing this because the card is too far. But here we have a fractured ball. See what we get. Oh, look at that, hidden riches. Didn't get lucky with the regal, but yeah, that's a lot of currency. And this is just a random ass node on our way that we don't even have to do too much anything about. So the more resist you have, the longer you can go without needing to throw a flare. So you do want to get that up at some point. But basically you just do this. There's another refracted wall, but I don't think I'm gonna go all the way that far. Oh, never mind, it's there. So now because I've destroyed the walls on these, I can't do them again. Like the walls don't respawn, etc. And also what you're doing is like, for the last flare, that's, you just clear out the thing, and that's when you log out. Because the duration of the flares is generally long enough that even if you do get packet loss, you're still out. So that's a very good way to get some extra currency early on. Like, what did we actually get? We got like a bunch of regals, we got a few chaoses, etc. But you could also do this on a already clear pathway. So we could run from here to here using the light that is already made there, and run to the random non-fractured wall like side areas. But now the issue is that I've destroyed the walls here, so they don't actually spawn anything anymore. But let's say that we'd run from here to here and complete it. We can then just keep running it as long as we don't destroy the fracture wall, and then the random zones can spawn rewards. So a lot of people actually do this later on when they get like down, like as for example, I wouldn't even recommend doing it at this depth yet, but you can sometimes find a loop like this. This is a good example. Like this loop here has two fractured walls, but if you don't destroy them, you can just run it. You run from here, and then you could actually, when you get to the other side, you just go from there and create a new zone immediately. No need to log out or anything like that. And then you can just run it and run it. You can get fossils, you get resonators, and currency and all that stuff. So Delve is a very good way to get some extra stuff early on. Then the second question we have is, what if cluster jewels are not going to be a thing anymore? Now, I have a bit of an upgrade cluster jewel set up here that I'm going to talk about later, but in the case of cluster jewels not existing, the build is going to be slightly weaker. Like, well, every build is going to be weaker, but it's not going to do a big deal. Like, it's not going to be a big deal for the build. I already have respec out of normal damage nodes here, I've respec out of the pathing damage nodes. I will also eventually respec out of these damage nodes. I will respec out of these damage nodes. So there's a lot of good nodes for the build. And then the only issue really is just the availability of spell block, because the classic setup gives you a lot of spell block. It's like, depending on the setup, it can give you up to 30 spell block. But that can be gotten from a shield. You can have a very good spell block roll on a shield. You can have a spell block, I think it's a suffix on an Elder Helm. You could get a spell block on I think it's a Shaper Amulet. But it just becomes harder to get them. Also, I think you might be able to craft. Oh, that's a normal block, not spell block. So it just makes it a bit harder to get the block cap. And when it comes to the avoidance immunity, for example, I'm using Elegant Form right now to get 30%. Well, in my level 100 ED character, I only had 25% avoidance from the class jewels through Flexible Sentry, which I will eventually get for this character as well, and dumpster the Elegant Form. So the ways to replace that, so we'll get, right now I'm using 25 here, 25 here, we have the Elegant Form, which is 30%, and then I have Arcane Fifness, which is 100%. But in my level 100 ED, I actually only have one of the suffixes crafted. So I still have Arcane Swiftness, then I have Flexible Percent, which is 25%, so that's 45%. Then I have another roll, I don't remember which, it's either on, I think it's on a helm, yeah. So, and then the remaining ones comes from a Shaper Boots. Shaper Boots gets up to 35%, I believe, on the max roll. So you could just replace this with the Shaper Boots roll in the end game. Other stuff you can do is you can take Elemental Focus, that's 10%. I wouldn't recommend Anointing Crystal Skin because there's much better anointments for the build, but that's an option. But I would repath this slightly differently, and I would spend the extra 2 points to take Elemental Focus, potentially like as an early game setup, and then combine it with a Hybrid Evasion ES Shield that has a suffix that goes up to, I believe, 22%. So that those two give you 32%, which is higher than this, so you'll still get it. Your ES values don't really go down. Sure, you lose the 100 flat from Energy from North, which is a really good roll, but there's also a bunch of other good ES nodes we could take. We could take entire Insight from OS Cluster. There's a bunch of 6% ES nodes there. There's singular ES nodes here. Well, the ES Evasion there. So it's not, the build is gonna be more than, the build was more than fine before Cluster Jewels, and it's gonna be more than fine if Cluster Jewels are gone. So yeah. And then the last question that I'm gonna reply to now is about Granite and Wall Molten Shell, because Sis recommends using Granite and VMS on his ED guide. So let's look at the staple flasks that we can't take away. We are gonna be using a Quicksilver always. I think this is plain and simple. Steep Knight is insane. 100% evasion rating. Smoke Cloud, even though you can blind through other means like Pleasant Stone, the 100% evasion there is insane, and it's very few uses on this, or like it's a very good uptime because the duration and how little charges it consumes. Jade is absolutely insane. So combine Jade and a Steep Knight together, I go from 7.8 to 27.5k evasion right now with these two flasks. So they are gonna stay. Then we're gonna run Quartz. Quartz is 10% spell dodge. Well, it's also attack dodge, but spell dodge is the one that is very interested about. Also phasing, because if you don't have the phasing, you'd have to get phasing on kill from somewhere, probably a jewel. Not a very nice thing to have that, like, regard that. And it's just a really good flask. The spell dodge actually allows us to cap spell dodge on this build, so that's very good. So then we are only talking about it. Are we using a basalt or a granite? So the first thing about why you don't want to really use the granite, in my opinion, is that if you don't have the granite up when you use wall molten shell, you wasted it. I don't even know if I have a granite here right now to show. I don't think I do. Yeah, but you have to absolutely have the granite up when you click VMS, otherwise it's a completely wasted skill use and your wall souls. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the way armor works in Path of Exile is the bigger the hit, the less armor actually helps. And I think if you have a alchemist, which is 25% flask effect of iron skin, which gives 100% armor, that gives you, I think, 10k armor, but it reduces the duration of the flask, so it's kind of annoying to have from that point of view. And then the more harder content we do, the bigger hits we are about to, like, we're gonna get hit by, and the more it's gonna like penetrate or granite when the granite is up. And if you don't use the alchemist prefix, then at least from my point of view, I think the VMS is kind of wasted because it doesn't give you a good enough buffer against damage. And another thing is, while you have VMS up, it doesn't it mitigates damage, but you're still taking hits, and that means that you're gonna be losing ghost routes. Sure, in the end game setup where you run like max block, max spell block, max spell dodge, and then you have a very high evasion, you're not gonna be getting hit that much to begin with. And that's also another reason why VMS at that point feels a bit useless, because you're just not gonna get hit, and you're gonna have such a high ES pool for basically everything else except deep delving, and you're gonna die there anyways because VMS isn't permanent uptime. So it's like kind of whatever. So I'd rather invest into avoidance early on because ghost routes are so important. Now, because if you don't have ghost routes, you're no longer like a stun immune. But you could get stun immune by getting a Uberlap enchant on boots with 80% chance to avoid stuns if you killed recently, and then when you pair it with Arcane Swiftness, that's 100%. But basically, I just rather take a static damage reduction that's gonna be more useful for big hits. And instead of using VMS, so like souls for VMS, I'd rather use them on Valkyries, because Valkyries give you especially very high avoidance for stuff like breaches, where there's like all of the things are shitting on you at the same time, which makes you lose ghost routes very fast early when you don't have the crazy amount of layers of avoidance. But yeah, hopefully that answered the granite question and the VMS. I think it's definitely an okay option, but that's not what I prefer to use. But yeah, and now back to the upgrades that we have had on the character. So we were like less than 7k ES before, and now we're almost 8.2. So the first big upgrade was we switched the shield. I think this was like 400 ES. Yesterday, I finally got the last defense catalysts, and I just slapped them on a crystal belt. Funny fact, this crystal belt is only item level 74, which is enough for the tier 2 flat ES, which goes to 47. And you would have to have an item level 80 for the last flat energy shield, and then there's like 84 for the last resist. But 74 is a good breakpoint where you get T2 flat energy shield. And how this was crafted is I basically just put the defense quality on it from the catalysts, and then I slammed resist essences on it. So I think the cold resist is what we got from the essence. And then because of the defense modifier, it gives us a higher chance to hit the ES. And well, it's just our 80 flat from the crystal belt is 896 now because of 20%. So this belt, this is like 600 ES. So this was like another 340 ES upgrade from the abyssal belt I had. So what I dropped, because I dropped that, was a random. I had a, yeah, I think this was the jewel that I had to drop because we needed the onslaught. So previously onslaught jewel was on the belt, and I just swapped that over this, like I said, some random ass jewel, which was okay to use early on, but don't want to use it too late. And obviously we have the Restless Ward now. We got a 5-link finally after 266 fusings on this chest piece, and probably another 50 on the other chest. And this is actually a downgrade. You can see both of them are 28% quality. That's because I got Hillock in fortification as a leader. And yeah, so this is actually more ES, as you can see. And going from the 20 quality to 28 on the Sadist gave me like almost 100 ES. But we are using the Restless Ward because it just happened. The 5-link, I'm gonna get rid of it eventually for sure, but the Restless Ward is definitely a very good early game CI chest. This is like right now like 560-ish ES, I think, when the evasion gets converted. But so the big thing about this is right now it basically gives me 3% movement speed, and I have enough duration on my frenzy charges to have them up during boss fights, like map boss fights. So that's 12% extra more damage and a bunch of cast speed and attack speed for shield charge as well. But the shield charge is already decently fast anyway, so that's kind of whatever. But the cool thing about this chest is that I can do an interesting swap with Frenzy for something like Awakener. During the Awakener fight, you don't really get enough souls to have. I have Wall Discipline, I have Wall Blight, and I have Wall Grace for mapping. But for something like Awakener, I don't need the Wall Grace. So I can actually swap to Frenzy. And if I hit him every 20 seconds, I can keep up the more multi from the Frenzy charges. Which is pretty nice. I haven't, got to there yet. I haven't actually used the Frenzy at all yet. But it's a interesting option we have. Remains to be seen if I'll do it, but yeah. Then another upgrade is, you might have noticed that we're casting things now when we are shield charging. I have Tempest Shield, so right now I am actually at 35% spell block, 34% attack block. I have 13% spell dodge, and once I upgrade this, if we've been hit recently, which will happen very often, we'll get another 5%. So we are actually ready for Awakener. Like right now, as of this character, how it is, I'm ready for Awakener. I just need to get there. So yeah, we have a trigger socketed spellcraft now. I'm not sure if I got lucky getting it. I think the mod starts to only spawn after at item level 75. But yeah, this is a random wand that I've had laying on my stash for a while now. Every time I get Aberrant, Scorch, and Frigid Fossil, and there's a number, I've done it 5 times now. I'm missing a Frigid right now from another attempt. I've just slammed it on. And I was like, okay, so that has an open suffix, so if I get the trigger, I can use this wand over the other one that I had, which was this one. This was also an upgrade from the previous video that I was using, and the damage that I lost from swapping this actually pretty good wand, I gained because I gained the trigger, which allowed me to drop overcharge. Now you don't have to have overcharge to begin with, but I liked it for the frenzy charge generating, and I don't need it for getting frenzies anymore because we have cold snap on the trigger. So there's a 25% chance to get a frenzy charge when something dies inside or like within this area, which is permanent uptime of my frenzy charges during mapping, which is very nice. Also, it gives me a tiny bit of movement speed, It's like 3% extra movement speed. And if I had Endurance charges, it would be some life regen as well. But I'm gonna get rid of this chest the moment I get a 5-link Sadis that is slightly a bit more better than the one that I'm currently using. Like, well, was using. We got a new ring, just filled out, found a random ring. This actually had an open suffix, like after the craft. We Leo slammed, we got the regen. So yeah, feels bad man on that, I guess. Past that, the gear's the same. I currently am running 2 curse immune flasks, but that's gonna change because, I guess, spoilers, I did a Mastermind, which I'll actually probably just finish on, like, slap the fight at the end of the video for you to see. And we got the flask, so that's, we got the regen, and we're just gonna slap the regen on the basalt. That's very nice. Even though having a second curse immune isn't exactly bad either. Yeah, and then quick look at the skill tree. Not much has changed. I would expect in the next video this to be gone, and instead I'm passing through this. So this is 1, 2, 3 plus Method to Madness. Instead it's gonna be 1, 2, the cluster, and then it's prepared for this. And instead of having this, I would hopefully have another one of these. I finally got myself a Chaos.multi medium cluster jewel, and I used way too much currency on this. I was trying to get Wicked Pull, which is this here, for chaos damage and skill effect duration. And then the other notable that you'd want, well, I'd want at least, while exposure therapy is more raw DPS, or let's just go with raw damage, you'll get more, especially bossing DPS, by having Eternal Suffering, which is 5% damage or time multiplier with 30% skill effect duration. So I think it's chaos skill effect duration, but so that would be 50% duration, which gives us a full extra second duration for Wither, which is very, very big. Also, it gives higher, like, a duration to Blight as well. And as you can see, we have a large cluster jewel that is indeed an 8 passives spell damage one with Conjured Wall and Mage Hunter. So that gives us 10% spell block right now, and later on 20. Whereas you can see, I don't have the passing nodes. I alt-out Gregal this. I got very lucky with alt-out Gregaling the Conjured Wall, Mage Hunter, and the +2 sockets. And then I Leo Slammed the Dexterity, which is like probably one of the worst possible exalts you can have on this. But it doesn't really matter. This is only extra 2 points. So ideally the exalt would have given me a random notable that just goes here. That it moves the Conjured Wall here because they're both prefixes. And then I would just save 2 skill points. But it's not really that big of a deal. Sure, it is like it's a bit of spell damage. It could have been like 2 all resist or 5 lightning resist, or there's a lot of bunch of actually good suffixes that you could use. And also, if I had a 9 passive one, that would only be 1 extra point. Actually, wait, I don't think it's in this current setup where I have to go here. I don't think it's actually extra point at all. And then if I had a 10 passive, that would be an extra point. But having a 9 passive with this is basically the same. Like, it's the same. 8 and 9 passive are same. And only when you have the exact proper setup where you have 3 notables, then the 8 passive becomes better. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think this video has probably been pretty long already. Yeah, and it's gonna be a few minutes even longer because I slap in the video of the Mastermind fine. But yeah, hopefully in a couple days we'll get to Awakener. Currently the play on this character is 1 day, so that's like 36 hours. However, I'd say at least 4 or 5 hours this is like AFK time / eating or whatever. For example, today alone, before I actually started to make this video, I probably AFK'd like an hour in game, eating and checking stuff. So it's probably more closer to like 30 hours played right now. So we've done some good progress. Oh yeah, and the fifth link on the ED is Fifth Affliction. Which is very important that we got some extra duration because it's minus 15% duration, which is a bit annoying. So right now, without it, my ED would be 6.8 seconds, and with it, it's 6.27. But it's not a big deal because we have the extra duration. And yeah, so with Arcane Surge and Infusion, my tooltip DPS for ED right now is 158k. So I think my Shaper DPS right now is at probably around 800,000 or something like that when combined with Blight and that. And extra if I get a swap the Contagion for a Falling Despair. Oh yeah, speaking of the Despair, Tempest Shield, and then we obviously have the Cold Snap are the trigger. Tempest Shield because it gives us 3% block and spell block, and well, Despair because we need the curse because it's absolutely insane. But yeah, I think this is all for now. Again, if you have any questions, ask away. I'll try to address, if not all, at least some of them in the next video. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon.
I too am resourceful. Darkness swarms. Give in, Jun.
No. Why?
Feel death's grip.
My family.
Darkness
Please.
swarms.
No.
Mortal.
How?
There's nothing that makes you feel so alive as death, is there? Now come to me, Jun. Let us see what your soul is made of.
This is only a T10. But I mean, I do have like over 700k Shaper DPS. Also, man, I really hope we get the flask. I want the region suffix. I have a slot for region suffix on my flasks. Yeah, I don't actually care about the flask. I care about the unveil. It's like 2% region with flask up.
Hundreds of dead rotting soulless in the earth. What a meaningless waste. But your souls, yours will serve. You try and try and try to break us, and yet the Syndicate is immortal. Do you think this will end any differently?
I wouldn't be here if I didn't.
You were a potent soldier, Chimerian. But our cause was never your cause. For your service. I give you what you never gave your victims. A quick death. Kulamak! Mortal. Death will never come for an immortal.
You're no immortal. You're a thief. Nothing more.
Yo, where are you? There you are.
I'd high hopes for you, Riker. Of everyone, I thought you would see what we could achieve. But you became caught in your own twisted machine. Your soul burns for me.
You hit me.
Kulamak! Darkness swarms. Submit. Let our souls become entwined.
Who's next?
We must persevere. Too much hinges on this.
You are owed a warrior's death, but the needs of the cause outweigh your own, Vegan. I take no pleasure in this. Your soul burns for me.
Yo, where are you? Bitch!
Arise, my children.
Actually don't know where she is.
Mortal.
Oh, you're there. Oh, that's such a bad spot to be in. With the degen shits. Now I need to dodge that fucking... Can you come... like...
Mortal. Darkness swarms. Arise, my children. Will destroy you.
My cause.
Feed.
Okay, good. That was one unlucky...
Legions of men you slew died for mere entertainment.
unlucky spot she was in.
You shall die for a cause greater than you could have ever hoped.
I don't need to do that yet, right? Where is she? Are you bugged? What is happening, dude? I'm so confused. This has never happened to me before. I guess this works.
Don't do this, Exile. You can still.
This is so weird, dude.
It's your chance to bring back anyone you've.
Man,
ever
that's a bit anticlimactic, I think.
Stop! I can bring them back. Jonah, I can
Give me
bring your
flask. I need
entire
flask.
order back. Just give me
Yep. Yep. Nice. And now look.
Exile.
The beautiful 3% regen during flask effect. And now we will reroll probably the basalt for that.